On this edition of NYMR TV, how the railway is doing its bit to prevent moorland fires during the hot weather. And we take you into the driving cab of NYMR's newest signing, the BR Standard Class 9F Loco. The fantastic summer weather is welcome news to tourists and businesses on the moors, but there is a problem. Fires are easily started. It just takes a discarded cigarette or a barbecue in the wrong place, and in minutes a large area of moorland can be consumed by flames. The NYMR has taken action to minimise the risk its steam engines pose. General Manager Philip Benham keeps one eye on the weather forecast, while making sure that all the firefighting equipment is thoroughly checked and ready at a moment's notice.
One of the great things about this railway is the scenery we run through, of course, and there's no better time to see it than in summer, when you've got the long sunny summer days, and have a trip through the moors or perhaps go onto the seaside at Whitby. It does of course mean that after perhaps the driest spring for best part of a century, then the countryside is very dry and very arid, and that means we've got to put in place special precautions. Obviously steam engines potentially can start fires. We do a lot to protect them. We put on what we call spark arresters. We put screens underneath the ash pans on the engine that minimise the risk of sparks being emitted. But the risk is always still there. So we have this arrangement of putting a diesel locomotive on the front of the train or perhaps on the back of the train between Levisham and Goathland. That means the diesel can do the heavy work over the most vulnerable section of the line, which is where we go through the moors, through the gorge of Newtondale and then over the top over the moors near Goathland. And that way we avoid the risk of starting a fire. It's still an interesting journey for people, of course. They can still enjoy the scenery. They still get the steam engines at the beginning and ends of the journey. But it does mean we have to change the timetable a little bit. The journey takes a bit longer with attaching the diesel engines and taking them off. So we have a special timetable in operation to make sure that the trains run reasonably to time. Well, we aim to be fully prepared just in case there is a fire, and we do put patrols following the trains down at particularly vulnerable times. And you see here some of the things that we've got. The beater, that's the piece of rubber on the end of a pole. Fairly obvious what that's for beating out fires. Very useful if the fire is fairly small and not taken hold too much. But we've also got supplies of water. As you can see, there's a water container you put on your back, drop off down the line if necessary, until you find the problem. And again, that's very useful for actually sort of damping down areas, because what you tend to find with the fires is they can get into the top surface and be smouldering away even when you think they're out. You've actually got sort of dead vegetation, leaves, pine needles, this sort of thing, and it's very easy for them to sort of smoulder away and then burst up again later on. So damping it down with water is very useful.
The North Yorkshire Moors Railway has made its own summer signing in the shape of a particularly large steam engine aimed at strengthening the frontline fleet. The British Railway's Standard Class 9F, engine number 92214, has just arrived, and it'll run throughout the season. It was the last in a series of standardised locomotive classes designed for British Railways during the 1950s, and was intended for hauling heavy goods trains over long distances. It's one of the most powerful steam locomotive types ever to have been built in Britain, and one of the most successful.
She's built primarily for heavy, fast freights. A 1,000-ton train was quite common with one of these, so she's very, very able to cope with the gradients and loads on our railway. In fact, she plays with it. She's beautiful. I really enjoy driving her. She's lovely. She's a well-engineered machine, and everything absolutely works as it should do. The only slight problem is that you get so little sensation that you're on a working steam engine working hard. It sounds as though somebody's working a little engine about 50 feet away from you.
The new arrival is already helping to lure even more visitors to the Heritage Steam Railway. And it's hardly surprising. To continue the footballing theme, it's rather like adding a top striker to our front line. You have until the end of October to come and see it. Meanwhile, NYMR TV will be back again next month.